Hello, my name is Gurpreet Singh and my student ID 20316-053. In this presentation, I critically examine Indian national and regional culture that we present how they are shaped their business environment for their international firm rather than their treating the Indian homogeneous culture. I highlight their hierarchical and collectivism and regional diversity can both their support and concentrate their business practices using their host fate and hold their levies module, and I discuss the multinational companies must be adopt their strategies to operate the effectively in the India. I talk about the introduction. Culture shapes assumption behavior and how their organization function in Indian culture and strongly influence the management style and communication stakeholders expectations and the purpose of their practicism and analyzes how these cultures characteristics impact the business positively and negatively and what the foreign firms must be understand to avoid their misinterpretation and their efficiency of their ethical conflict and the aim is not their description but the critically evaluation of their culture business leadership. Indian diversity create an opportunity but also the complexity of international firms hierarchical norms and respect for the age and authority provides and clarity but there is a restrained bottom up communication or innovations and English help to business settings and yet the informal exchange is still there occur in the regional language meaning of origin firms and missing or the local insights if they relay the sole English speaking networks. Overall, their diversity is an asset and they requires the nuanced multilingual engagement. And culture shapes how the construct the trust risks are interpreted in Indian relationship driven business and environment can be depend a long term partnership but may because their uh, ambiguity of firms and associated to their strict to rule based system. In the case such as the Coca-Cola groundwater controversy show that the legal compliance and alone is sufficient firms and must be considered a local ethical expectation. The criticize here that is a culture sensitivity cannot and replace that global ethical responsibility. Both must be balanced. Indian high power distance supports a clear authority but shows the decision making and reduce their upward challenges and collectivism strongly loyalty and their long term relationship but they can suppress distance whistle bowling and achievement orientation motivates career growth yet they are combined with their hierarchy it maybe creates a political sensitive environments for multinationals and that means their performance systems must be considered the both competence and the relations dynamics and low uncertainty avoidance encourages flexibility and their pro provisions which they benefit the innovations but they weaken their structured risk management and long-term orientation supports their partnerships and investment but they can cause a presence with their falling projects and low inclusiveness reflects their restraints and their provincialism and that the cases like their Patanjali show that where culture values and business behavior can uh, diverging firms must be analyzing actually organizational practices not their lay culture assumption. India's high context style they relies or implicate the meaning and relationship and non-verbal causes and this supports many a harmony creates a challenges for executive for a low context culture who expect the clarity and directness and high context so must be can also they enforce their hierarchy and because indirectly communication limits upward feedback leader must be therefore encourage explicit discussion for their high risk decision while they are representing their relation norms. Indian multi-active orientation promotes the relationship building, flexible negotiation, and their adaptability useful in certain markets. However, their partners or liner active culture may be oppressive and that we disorderly or they're insufficient. The Maruti Suzuki labor dispute they show their broken relationship expectation can they rapidly scaled successfully firms they combine their flexibility with their clear and structure to avoid their misunderstanding. Indian regions where vary significantly. Norms and regions tend to their prefer to hierarchy and southern regions emphasis process. Eastern and western regions show their strong community operation. Cases such as their Samsam unrest in their south and their ITC community based on inactive shows that a uniform Indian strategy is inadequate. International firms must be tailor HR, CSR, and communication to local culture expectation. Indian organizations often their main hierarchical centralization structure that encourage the control, but the slow decision as seen in their reliance and tax issue of global firms. However, they are increasingly use their decentralization collaboration models that we challenges in there is not a transplanting Western flat structure, but the creative hybrid to model their respect hierarchy and while they're empowering the local teams. Craftism builds the strong internal networks and their loyalty, but they combined with their hierarchy and they can create a parentalistic organizations where their questioning authority is rare and the effects the innovation BSNL delays illustrate and how the decision making radiates and can the higher technological progress and culture does not determine business behavior but they shape the structures employees perceive as a legitimate. Relationship building is essential, but the time-consuming forms we understanding this may be misinterpreted slow the peace efficiency. Subculture differences must be informed the strategy one their national approach will be not work. Finally, firms must be balanced culture adaptation and with the universal ethical obligation. Not everything labeled culture is acceptable. For example, gender equality or a weak environmental practices cannot be justified through their cultural realism. Language diversity remains a major operational challenge, particularly in manufacturing and the rural areas, and micro-communication affects the safety and the complements structural tensions and exist between the Indian and hierarchical culture and the multinational decentralization structures. The Posco's dispute that illustrate and the culture identify and the land right and the politics intersects and the cultural misunderstanding that cannot be separated from the wider or socio-politic and the political factor. And fact is, the leadership in their Indian requires their cultural intelligence and, recognizing in indirect the causes and understanding what they motivates to diverse employees. And however, their leadership program often there remains superficial and the real impact of requires to align the training and with their rewards promotes and decision system so their inclusive behavior and actually the practice is not just discussed. The local partnerships such as the Tesco, Tata can be built up their legitimacy through their required and carefully governance and culture training must be a continuously bio biodirectional and graduational direction decentralization will be keep the key decisions at their senior levels can reduce their bottlenecks and finally multinational and regional sensitive for communications builds trust but we must be supported by their internal practices or just not external messages. Indian cultural landscape creates the both opportunity and the complexity and the hierarchical practicism and the regional diversity and shape management or communication and the ethics. Success requires more than the market entry analysis. It demands the culturally intelligent leadership, region-sensitive structure, and balance between the adaptation and the global ethical standards. Found that cultures are strategically and that not stereotypically are there better positioned for a sustainable success. And these are differences. Thank you.